Hi everyone, it's Amy here. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today I have a book haul for you, and from now in June I am going to be slightly changing the rest of the year in terms of book hauls and how many books I am buying. So this is going to be my last huge book haul like this. I have 14 books to show you, and for the rest of the year, well, I'm going to be making a video basically later this month, and it's going to be called the TBR challenge. So look out for that if you're interested to hear what I'll be doing for the remainder of the year in terms of reading and buying books, because I needed to change things up. So let's jump into the books that I'm showing you today. As I said, I've got 14 books to show you. They're a real mixture of things. I do have a couple of non-fiction here as well, which is quite cool. So we'll jump straight in. The first book I have to show you is Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. So this is a Greek mythology retelling situation. I read A Thousand Ships by Natalie Haynes recently and really enjoyed it. I think she has a really nice way of retelling Greek stories, and in this one in particular, basically she is retelling particular Greek stories that are very well known. However, she's focusing on the female perspective in those stories. So you know, the likes of Odysseus and Heracles and Zeus and all of that kind of stuff, but she's telling it through the woman's perspective. So for example, instead of focusing on Agamemnon, we're looking at Clytemnestra, his wife. I think it's going to be a really interesting read. Very much looking forward to picking it up. The next book I have here is Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan. I believe I've pronounced that name correctly. This follows the story of a girl named Ava, I believe, who leaves Ireland to basically go and explore the world. It's been likened to Normal People by Sally Rooney. If it's got that kind of vibe to it, then I definitely think I'll enjoy it. I very much enjoyed both of Sally Rooney's novels, so if we've got similar things happening here, I think it will be a good one. Next up, we have Blue Ticket by Sophie Mackintosh. So this is the second book that I'll have read from Sophie Mackintosh. I read The Water Cure recently, absolutely adored it, and when I saw that she had a recent book out, I decided to pick this one up when it came out in paperback. So essentially this is a dystopian novel wherein women in the society, as soon as they start their periods, they are sent to their local authorities wherein they select a ticket. If they take a blue ticket, then they are free to go, and if they take a white ticket, then they become child bearers for the society. And so, very interesting concept. I do really like these kind of dystopian feminist texts that kind of really deeply look into things. Books like The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. There was also The Power by Naomi Alderson. That was a very good book. So I'm feeling like this is going to be one like that, and it's something that I really enjoy reading, especially to see the parallels in the world that we currently live in, to see, like, you know, how many steps would we have to go before we were in a situation like this. Definitely think this will be an interesting read. Next up, we have Burn by Patrick Ness. Now, I'm a big fan of Patrick Ness. I've read him ever since I was a youngster. I remember reading the Chaos Walking trilogy when I was quite young. Loved those. And I haven't read anything from him in a good few years. And so when I saw he had a new book and it was coming out in paperback, I decided to pick myself up a copy. On the back here it says that the main character in 1957, Sarah Dewhurst, waited with her father in the parking lot of the gas station for the dragon that he had hired to help on their farm. So yeah, that sounds intriguing to me. I'm not sure where it's going to go, so I will report back once I've read it. Next up, we have a book that I was sent from Pam Macmillan free of charge. I will leave the details down below because the author's name is not one that I am completely comfortable with trying to pronounce. The title of the book is Magma. As this is a proof copy, it doesn't have the lovely cover I'm sure it will have. This one follows the story of a 20-year-old woman called Leela who moves in with this enigmatic older boy in her university and builds a relationship with him, and obviously becomes very infatuated by him. And I believe it's kind of the slow descent into realizing that she's being manipulated and controlled by this man, and that they are in a very toxic relationship. But I believe it will probably take a little while for her to realize that that's the situation that she's in. And so I think this is going to be a tough read, but quite an interesting one and an important one hopefully as well. So yeah, definitely will let you know once I've read that one. Next up we have Birthday by Meredith Russo. So this one follows the story of two people who were born on the same day, Eric and Morgan. They're best friends, and I believe we join them when they are kind of in their adolescence, and so they're discovering a lot about themselves, about life, not really sure where they want to go and what they want to do with themselves. And so I believe this book is mainly about their friendship and how they support each other through all of life's ups and downs. I think it's going to be quite a heartwarming one, I'm hoping, but maybe one that deals with some tougher topics as well. It does have a trigger warning inside for, I think, suicide and self-harm, so maybe not for everyone, but one that I've had on my wish list for years, so I thought that I would finally pick it up. Next up we have Little Bandage Days by Kira Wilder. I actually picked this one up after hearing Emma at Drinking by My Shelf recommend it in either a book break video or one of her own videos. If I can find it, I will leave it linked down below. Really enjoyed that video. It actually sparked me to make my own recommendation video for dark fiction, and this is what she shared as one of hers. So this one follows the story of a woman who moves with her husband and her two children to Geneva, and I believe it's kind of her slow descent into madness, being isolated and experiencing life being kind of the primary carer for these two children and feeling quite cut off from the world. And I think potentially as a reader you are left kind of questioning, like, is she okay? Is she sane? What's happening here? And so it sounds like a book that's going to be right up my street. As soon as I heard Emma talk about it, I added it straight to the wish list because it's definitely my kind of book. Next up we have The Gilded Ones by Namina Fauna. I actually found this one only for £5 in a supermarket, so I think that was quite a nice bargain. I love finding books that are being spoken about a lot on BookTube and are clearly well respected in the supermarket, because they always seem to be really good prices there. So yes, this one I believe is a fantasy, and on the back here it says, are we girls or are we demons? Are we going to die or are we going to survive? We have a main character who is our heroine, and it seems as if she is discovering powers within herself in order to become her own fiercest weapon, it says here on the back. So yeah, I have been loving fantasy this year. I think it's just been a complete escapism from the horrors of the world, and so very much looking to see what this one is like. Next up we have a book that I actually listened to on audiobook at the end of last year, and I loved it so much that when I saw it in the supermarket again I was so happy to see it, because I definitely wanted a paperback copy, and that is The Book You Wished Your Parents Had Read and Your Children Will Be Glad That You Did by Philippa Perry. This is a non-fiction book, and you may or may not know or have seen in any of the videos, because I feel like I have mentioned it a few times, but myself and my fiance Mark, we're getting married in a few months and we are planning on trying for a child, and so books like this are becoming very interesting to me, because the prospect of bringing a child into the world and having the responsibility of like shaping a child and giving it like the best in the world, and you know, it's a big responsibility, and so I'm one of those people that likes to prepare and feel like I've read up on a subject. And I know you can read 1,000,001 books and still not fully be prepared for the change that will come when you have a child, but I'm doing as much as I can. So when I listened to this book last year, it was incredible, and so I'm very glad to now have a copy of it that I can dip in and out of as and when I need. Definitely would recommend to anyone, even if you have like already had children and you don't feel like you like would need it necessarily. Like, it kind of fits to any age parent, I think. Like, even if your children are like grown up, like I feel it's just an interesting take on things, like psychologically is a very good book. Really enjoyed it. Next up we have Pine by Francine Toon. So this one I believe is quite a, maybe like a thriller-esque kind of book, definitely like a darker kind of fiction. And so we follow a young girl and her father who live kind of in the wilderness. Very much My Absolute Darling feels to it. When I read that on the back, I was like, oh, hello, like that reminds me of My Absolute Darling. So we're with this father and daughter living in the wilderness. They pick up hitchhikers quite regularly to kind of drop them to wherever they need to be. And one time they pick up a young woman, and then the next day the girl discovers that this young woman has gone missing, and so obviously has questions as to whether her dad may be responsible for that. A little bit worried that this might be a bit scary for me, because I'm a complete wimp when it comes to scary things, so hopefully it's like not too horror-esque. I don't know, I don't think it is. I think it's more on like the thriller and dark fiction kind of side of things, so I will definitely report back once I've read this one. I think it will be quite interesting. So I will let you know the horror level of this one once I read it. The next book I have here is Raybearer by Jordan Ifuko. This is another fantasy novel that follows a young girl who has been raised by an absent mother who is also known as the Lady, and she has been kind of raised in order for her to then be able to go to the capital of wherever she lives, to then kind of take an oath to become one of the Crown Prince's chosen 11. Her mother actually intends for her to try and kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. So yes, sounds like it's going to be a fun one, hopefully. I don't know if this is part of a series. Potentially it could be, who knows? Well, I suppose I'll know once I finish it if it doesn't feel like it's completely summed itself up. But yes, I've heard really good things about this one, so looking forward to reading it. Next up, we have another non-fiction book, and that is Witches by Sam George Allen. So this is a book that brings together the idea of women and what women can create when they are kind of just left to it, and when they come together and men are not involved. So basically the magic that can happen when women join forces, when they back each other up, when they are collectively kind of rooting for the same cause, like the amazing things that can happen from that. And I remember picking this up, I think it was when I was on holiday in the Lake District. I went into a little book shop and I saw this book and I read the first chapter and I absolutely loved it, but didn't buy it at the time. And then for ages I couldn't remember the title of it and kept writing like witches and just couldn't find the book. Then somehow I got recommended it on Amazon, so I found the title of the book, managed to find it. So looking forward to reading this one. I've not been reading a huge amount of non-fiction, to be honest, this year, so definitely keen to see if I get along with this one, and I'll let you know once I've read it. The penultimate book I have to show you is Bride of the Sea by M.N. Quota. This is another one I've been recommended recently. We essentially follow the story of a couple who are living in America, however their relationship has fallen apart and they decide to divorce. The husband of the couple returns to their homeland of Saudi Arabia, but intends to return to arrange how they're going to kind of split the caring duties of their child. Whilst he is away, and with the fear of losing her child, the woman of the couple decides to just leave, and she basically abducts their child and doesn't tell him where she is going. So then what ensues is this struggle for this poor man trying to find his once wife and his child, and all of the implications and impact that that has on their friends and family. So it sounds incredible. I really hope that I enjoy this one. I think it's going to be a good read, so I'll report back once I've read it. And the final book I have here is actually a collection of stories, and it's called Who's Loving You? Love Stories by Women of Colour. And so this is kind of like an anthology, a grouping of 10 stories written by women of colour, and it's their perceptions on love, their ideas of love, and stories that they've created. They're all fiction. And I'm hoping this is going to be a really enjoyable read. I don't often read things that are geared solely towards like romance or love, so I'll be interested to see like how I take this one in, if I really like appreciate all of the stories, and if kind of just having that central focus of love is something that I look for then when I go and read other books. It will be interesting to see. Have you read this one, or is it on your TBR? I would love to hear down below. So there we are, those are all the books that I've acquired since my last book haul. I'd love to hear down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. What have you been acquiring recently? Let me know down below. As always, I will leave links to everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you soon. Bye!